already happening. And she is flying right into the heart of it. The battlefield is locked. Skyscraper.
Coming to you from the last video store in the universe, it's Binge Movies 143. I'm Jason. This is a show that ranks, eliminates movies, determine which ones are most worthy of preservation for all time, even beyond the end times. On this episode, we rank Die Hard knockoffs. Normally, I have a very elaborate kind of introduction. I blow smoke up the guest ass. Sometimes it's true smoke. Most of the time, it's true smoke, honestly. If there is such a thing. So it's not really smoke. Most of the time, I'm just blowing truth up my guest's ass. In this case, I'm going to fall short. And I'm not going to be able to do that for Sam. Not because he doesn't deserve it. Because I've had a pretty shitty day, Sam. I guess I'm going to announce this to you and to our listeners at the same time. This is probably going to be my last episode of Binge Movies.
What? Holy shit!
Yep. The show, look at your face. Yeah, the show is going to continue, but it will not be continuing with me.
Wow. Holy fuck.
It's going to be continuing with AI. The company that owns the show has decided that an AI could do the show just as good as I could, if not a little bit better.
Yep.
And in fact, they have enough audio already of my voice that they could feed that into an AI. And the next 600 episodes of Binge Movies are going to be all AI. They'll be able to fit a lot more ball trimmer ads in that way.
Good point.
And shorten the episodes, ironically. We'll have much shorter episodes if it's not me. So it may sound like me, but it will not be me.
Coming to from the last video store in the universe, it is the new and improved Binge Movies. All hail the new flesh.
There's going to be like 600 episodes within a week of you ending, right? Like they're just going to pump out as many as they can.
Correct. Yep.
Cool. Awesome.
I'm under the impression that they're already been produced. So the very next episode you listen to will not be me. It'll be a AI facsimile of me moving forward. I'm probably not even supposed to disclose this, and I may have to edit this whole thing out in post, but I figured I want to let you know. Because, Sam, the next time that you come on here, you're probably just going to be talking to a bot, bud.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah.
They're the only people that talk back to me, so I'm quite excited about that.
You're going to be talking to a chat app.
Ooh.
You know, it'll be just like a lot of people's dating profiles or Instagram DMs. Be all bots.
Promoted on Reality Records. Can't wait.
So I'm a little bummed out. I spent a lot of time crying today, and I'm going to bring a lot of weird energy to the episode because I'm effectively out of a job. So,
oh man, that's depressing.
Yep. Well, I would like to say that I'm often imitated but never duplicated, but now I've been imitated and duplicated. So I can't even say that anymore. So now I'm often imitated and now often duplicated.
Yeah. And pretty much replicated.
You're supposed to be lifting my spirits. You're
I know.
supposed to be saying that there's an ineffable quality to my voice and to my ability and to my skills, but instead you're just looking at me. It seems like you're more stunned than I am.
I am. I'm really surprised. I must admit, when you said, I can't blow smoke up his ass, I was thinking because we actually planned to record a podcast on this a couple of weeks ago, and me, in my infinite wisdom, decided to jot down the date when I was tired and hungover after a fucking few nights on the bivvies, and then like the day of it happening.
Excuse me, a few nights on the what?
The bivvies, the beverages. I guess this is New Zealand slang.
Bevies.
Bivvies.
What the fork is the bevies.
There you go. But yeah, jotted down the date. Thought everything was sweet, thought we were all good, and then decided new year, new me. I wouldn't go on social media too much, and then went on Twitter at 6 o'clock at night to discover, hey, are we doing this? I guess not. We're going to have to reschedule. And I was like, the fuck?
I wasn't going to bring that up.
You should have.
Brought it up.
There is a large
here's the
crack
good news. No.
in the back of my phone from where I crushed my phone in my hand. Like I've actually crunched the case. You can actually see it. You can see the case. Like I legitimately just, what the fuck?
The good news is moving forward, you will probably be automated as a guest at some point. So it won't even matter. You'll never have to schedule another one of these at Binge Movies, probably beyond today. If we get enough audio of you today, boom, there's going to be an AI Sam.
That'd be amazing. I mean, New Zealand's only just got the internet, so for me to be AI'd as well is like, man, this is leaps and bounds.
I mean, yeah, yours, there's probably not enough. There's only a couple episodes of you. But again, there's a lot of stuff out of you on the internet. You've done a guest appearance. You've been on the countdown at least 1,000 times.
At least, yeah.
So they'll start ripping words and sentences and phraseology out of there.
Hi. I am Sam, and I am glad to be back on my favorite podcast, Binge Movies.
I can't wait. There's enough.
Have you ever been on the Contrarian? Have you ever been on the Contrarians podcast?
Yep, been on the Contrarians. I've been on.
Okay, we'll take it from there.
Swim.
Have you ever been? Yeah, I don't know those guys. They don't count to me. Have you ever been on Epic Film Guys?
Yes. Yep. Been on Epic Film Guys.
Yep, we're taking that. Obviously, you're on We Watch the Thing every other week, so we'll take you from there. Have you ever been on Real Spoilers?
No.
I told you I love the guys from Real Spoilers. Genuinely, the best guys in the world. But as far as a show goes, I think they've been AI for the last 10 years. Possibly.
Yeah. You'd have no way of knowing, really. Like most podcasters, I've never actually met them in real life, so I'd have no idea.
Yeah. Listen, there's a chance that Kevin is a person. There's definitely a chance that Tom is a person. But Joe, he's just a series of Marvel and wrestling references in an indistinguishable order. I tease because I love it. It's actually not true. In case you didn't show up tonight, Sam, I already had a replacement for you lined up, and it was Joe from Real Spoilers. Hence why I'm busting their balls.
That's amazing. Oh, I feel so valued. This guy's a fucking idiot. He's not doing shit.
I just thought, hey, man, you know what? Something's going on over there. Because here's the thing. You disappeared off of Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what the fuck? Did this guy quit his podcast and not tell me? And then when we realized, oh, no, it's just the because of the international dateline fucking our brains up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, understandable. Now we're going to do it this really weird time for both of us. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in case something comes up or kids get sick or whatever, so I don't delay the season, I'm just going to have to do a backup. Then I'd figure out just to get you on an episode in the next season. I just shift things around. But we don't have to do that. I don't have to bring in AI Joe from Real Spoilers. I can just have you, and I can convert you to AI as we talk. Isn't that wonderful?
That sounds amazing.
All right, we're talking about some Die Hard knockoffs today. This raises the question, we'll get into it throughout the conversation, Sam. But the whole purpose of this show is to figure out what movies are worthy of preservation. Are there any knockoff movies that are actually better than the movie they knocked off?
Oh, I should have done some homework on that. That is a great question. There's nothing that springs to mind. There's nothing that's like, hey, we're, blatantly going for the exact same plot, like major plot point, yet we've managed to do it better. I mean, if I was at a push, I can't really stand Dances with Wolves, so I'd say Avatar is marginally better than Dances with Wolves.
Avatar is probably better than Dances with Wolves, and it's probably better than Ferngully, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's probably better than those two. I'll go for that. Yeah.
James Cameron has created a definitive knockoff movie that's better than the originals that it ripped off. We've ended the episode right there. We don't even have to talk about the rest of the movies on this list.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we're just done. So, actually, no, Sam, you don't get off that easy. Either do our listeners at home. This has been the weirdest beginning to an episode I've ever done, and that says something because I've had a lot of weird beginnings. Let's see if we can get some weird endings. That's probably something that's legal in Auckland, New Zealand, and not legal here in the good old United States of America. Let's get into weird endings at the massage parlor that is Movie Reviews in 20 Qs. Starting with 1991's Toy Soldiers, which currently happy endings at Toy Soldiers. Ooh. Currently has a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Terrorists just took over their school. The students have no weapons.
Are you with me or not?
Of course we're with you. And no way out.
Look at everybody killed. It's too late to back out now.
The only chance they've got
We're really gonna do this? You bet.
is each other. Toy Soldiers, rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Toy Soldiers was directed by Daniel Petrie Jr., and it was written by David Koepp of Jurassic Park and many other movies fame, and Daniel Petrie Jr. It was released April 26, 1991 in the United States. It is the triumphant return of Louis Gossett Jr., Enemy Mine. That's the last time we saw him. It's triumphant return of Will Wheaton, last seen in Stand By Me. It is the triumphant return of R. Lee Emery, last seen in Full Metal Jackets. Triumphant return of Andrew Divoff, a.k.a. The Wishmaster, last seen in Air Force One. It is the triumphant return of Denholm Elliott, last seen in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. On a budget of $10 million, this movie made, any guess?
40 million.
15 million.
Ah, damn it.
The Cali cartel takes prep school brats hostage, and only their hijinks can save them. You got a synopsis for me?
This movie's fucking terrible. Was that a synopsis?
Okay, I confused this with a movie from 1997 called Masterminds, which stars Sir Patrick Stewart.
Right. Yep.
So I thought maybe that's what this one was when the list came down from the Dark Movie Overlords. Turns out I was wrong. Turns out it's a movie I've never heard of, and probably for good reasons. My apologies to Patron Elite member Heather Sachs and various and sundry other members of the Patreon of Binge Movies who probably know, love, like, and own this movie on Betamax. I will say this. There's some positives before I rag on this movie. When the movie opened and they launched a lady hostage out the window for her to splatter on a ledge and on the stairs, I thought, holy crap. Okay. We're in for a legitimate like terrorist movie, a hostage movie.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other elements like that or moments like that throughout the film where it's really strange because the terrorists are written like real terrorists in a real movie where the drug cartel of Colombia will fuck you up.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
The other 3/4 of the movie is written as a teen hijinks, all boys, private school, coming of age film where they're hacking the phone lines to call phone sex operators, or masquerading mouthwash as vodka, or vodka as mouthwash rather, which leads me to ask, what the fuck is this movie?
Yes.
Is this a hard R movie for 90s teenagers?
It's bizarre because it's like because we were supposed to record this a while back, I decided, should I rewatch some of these films and bring myself up to memory and, all that sort of stuff. And when me and my wife sat down to watch a movie on Monday or Tuesday night, she said to me, and this is probably ruining the synopsis for all these films, but she said to me, okay, what are these films? I was like, okay, so we've got one where this, terrorists take over a boat and then the guy on the boat has to fight them all off. We've got another one where terrorists take over a skyscraper and he's got to fight them all off. We've got one where terrorists take over a hockey rink and the guy inside has to fight them all off. And then she looked at me and then she was like, oh, and then by the way, we've got this one where terrorists take over a school and then we get American Pie for about 45 fucking minutes. And then we get a whole bunch of whimsy and then they basically, it turns into basically a whole bunch of these kids trying to fight off the terrorists. And she was like, you're making shit up now. And I'm like, I'm fucking not making shit up. We managed to watch about 3/4 of the trailer and she was like, okay, I want to watch the boat one. I was like, cool. Fuck.
You're not wrong about whimsy though, right? Because the tonal whiplash that happens here, we get very serious murders for the first, let's say 10 minutes of the movie, right? It's serious. People are fucking murdered. It's like, okay, this is going to be like an action drama. This is going to be like a legit movie. Then cut to what feels like a bunch of boys in short shorts dancing, like running in England. An all boys prep school. It wasn't. It was shot in New York. But the musical score is like Dead Poet Society.
That's
or something like it's whimsy. It's like, oh, pranks, shenanigans, ha ha ha. And you're right. Like the next 30 minutes of it are all about the pranks and shenanigans of predominantly wealthy white kids who are the sons of politicians who are pulling pranks on Louis Gossett Jr. and trying to get drunk or trying to get laid or trying to circle jerk in the basement with a phone sex operator or whatever the hell else. And then when the terrorists show back up, they're still these extremely violent, hard R terrorists, to the point that if you don't like Will Wheaton, which by my calculation is about 99% of the sane population of the world, you can watch Will Wheaton try to grab a gun to shoot the terrorists, even though they're letting him go. And then you watch a teen boy who could not even handle the recoil of the gun in his hand end up getting sprayed with bullets and murdered on the stairs of his school in front of all of his teachers and friends.
It's insane. That was the part where I was like, okay, these people aren't fucking around. Because there was a point there where Sean Astin has quite possibly the biggest load of plot armor that I've ever seen in any character, outside of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where you're like, there's no way he's ever going to die. It's like there's multiple times where the terrorists could kill this guy. And admittedly, he's like, they don't want to kill him because they're worth a little bit of money. But like, you've got 40 other, pay packets that are roaming around the school, and you've got one pretentious little snot-head kid that you'd blow away. I'm like, what? Why didn't they shoot him? And then they shoot Will Wheaton. I'm like, where the fuck is the logic in this movie? What is going on?
Well, yeah, because the cartel members, so the basically the Wishmaster is the main gangster, and he's with the Cali cartel, and his dad is the main cartel boss, and his dad is imprisoned, and so they've taken this Xavier School for Nepo babies over, and it's all of these kids of wealthy politicians, except for one of the characters, their dad is just a mob boss.
Yeah.
And I think that's Will Wheaton, right? Isn't it Will Wheaton's dad's a mob boss?
Will Wheaton's dad's a mob boss, and that's the one they decided to murder.
I think he's played by Jerry Orbach.
Correct.
After a while,
yeah.
From Law and Order and Dirty Dancing, and he's playing an Italian mobster who his son is Will Wheaton, but Will Wheaton hates him. So when Will Wheaton figures out that his mob boss dad has negotiated with the Colombian drug cartel for him to be released because they're actually buddies, and the guy's like, oh, we didn't realize like whose kid you were, like we'll let you go, like no harm, no foul. Instead, he like kicks with a terrorist, steals their gun, and before he could even get off a single round, I mean, I think he kind of like starts spraying indiscriminately all around, but he's not even close to hitting anybody. And as he's pulling the trigger, they just blow the fuck out of Will Wheaton on the stairs of the school while all of these children watch. And you're just like, this movie feels like two scripts that do not belong together that were thrown together. And the only thing I can imagine is that if you were like 10 years old, you had to be a very specific age at a very, very specific time.
Correct, yeah.
Where if you were 10 years old in 1991 and you had access stateside to Cinemax, and this was just aired every afternoon at like 3 p.m., you probably fucking love this movie. But as a grown adult in 2023 watching it, I was like, I could not, in between pretty well executed action, like as far as like violence goes, like squibs and explosions, all that sort of stuff, you get the prank hijinks. And in between that, you get long stretches of just these wealthy affluenza kids just bitching about their lives. Like the whole facility, the whole compound is under terrorist control, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But they get to be in their rooms unattended, so they can actually plot and map out and build a drone and do all of this shit with nobody noticing. Most of it's either happening in their bedroom, their dormitory, where there are apparently no guards in the rooms, or it's happening quite open in the main courtyard of the school where they're doing most of their classwork. They continue classes at this boarding school, prep school for boys, while the terrorists and armed guards are all over the facility.
It's batshit. It's like if Home Alone, like Kevin was setting up all the traps while the wet bandits were just wandering around like, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm just setting up these paint cans. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what it
Sean
feels
Astin escapes the school, the armed school, because they distract the bad guys with a drone. He gets out to the military CIA tents where the people are trying to figure out, they're trying to negotiate. FBI is trying to negotiate with the Kelly cartel, where Lou Gossett Jr., who is just like the head, he's not even the head principal, because that's the guy that's Elliot, what's his face from Last Crusade, who's the headmaster.
Yeah.
Lou Gossett Jr. is almost just like the assistant principal. I don't even know what the fuck his role is. He's somehow
probably the janitor,
in there,
man. Who fucking knows?
He's in there with the FBI, somehow helping them negotiate, which doesn't make any sense. And then Lou Gossett Jr. argues on the behalf of Sean Astin,
Astin,
and says, hey, if you got to trust anybody, you trust this 16-year-old kid in Reebok pumps. You trust him to free and liberate all of these people. Don't go in. Don't do any kind of intervention. It doesn't matter. Like, they call the president.
Yeah.
And Lou Gossett Jr. goes, don't listen to the president. Listen to 16-year-old Sean Astin. He knows he's got a sketchbook full of drawings. Or as you would say over there, drawings.
Drawings, yeah. Sean Astin, who at this point has been the absolute snottiest punk-nosed kid who's on the verge of being expelled. Let's listen to him.
Yes.
He knows what he's up to.
He knows what he's up to because he found out a way to masquerade vodka as mouthwash.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
So he's the boy we need to trust.
Yeah.
Forget all of your CIA intel. Forget what the FBI, forget what the president says. Forget all of that. Listen to this 16-year-old boy who's only there on a fucking scholarship, by the way. It made, it's a fantasy for kids, but as an adult, when you're watching it, you're like, this is intermittently extremely violent, deeply boring.
Yes.
Pretty fucking cheesy and completely unbelievable.
It is like a sloppy one-night stand between Red Dawn and Dead Poet Society, and they've knocked out this kid that neither of them wants to take care of, and no one's shown the love it deserves, and this is the end result.
That's a great way to put it. And they're so, even though the stakes should be crazy high because we're watching them murder people and children and the elderly, and they're blowing shit up, because these kids have an hour and a half, it seems, of just time to come up with their plot. It feels so lax that, and the kids so feel relatively free to like come and go. It doesn't feel like there's any stakes to this movie whatsoever, which if you're going to be we're going to kill kids on screen and take kids hostage and we're actually going to fucking murder them, there ought to be stakes. You ought to feel tension. There's no tension in this movie. It's not the worst of the week.
No.
But it's my second worst of the week. It's my number 4, and I give it a 4 out of 10.
Correct.
I really didn't enjoy it. I will never watch it again.
Correct. I'm with you. I went bizarrely specific and said 3.8 out of 10. I'm right up there with you in terms of being on track. Is
it your worst of the week, or is it your number 4?
It's my number 4. I mean, it's pretty obvious what our number 5 is going to be, but we'll hold.
Is it?
I feel, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
So what number was it for you again?
It was number 4. Definitely number 4.
Number 4.
Easily number 4.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along. We are still in the 1990s, just 1 year later. I'm talking about Passenger 57, which somehow has a lower score at a 24%.
The flight is in the air. Hijackers are on board.
Who's in charge? You are.
One passenger is fighting back.
You! Back to your seat! God, please!
Wesley Snipes is Passenger 57.
Chill out. I'm one of the good guys.
Terror at 40,000 feet and climbing. Passenger 57.
Tell me you're good at this.
I'm the best. Rated R. Starts Friday, November 6th at a theater near you.
This film was directed by Kevin Hooks with a screenplay by David Laffery and Dan Gordon with a story with a story by Stuart Raffill and Dan Gordon. It is a triumphant return of Tom Sizemore, last seen in Saving Private Ryan, and it's the triumphant return of Liz Hurley, pre-facial reconstructive surgery, last seen in Austin Powers. This film was released November 6, 1992 on a budget of $15 million, made $66 million. Traumatized airline security expert gets back on board a plane at the absolute worst time.
Yep, that sums it up. That is the synopsis. Weasley Snipes is...
Okay.
Yep. Basically on the wrong
Binge
plane,
Lords,
the wrong time.
consult your Binge Movies notebook, which you can get officially at bingemovies.threadless.com, because I think this may be the debut of Sir Wesley Snipes on Binge Movies. I could be wrong, but I think that's true. This movie has $5 million more to its budget than Toy Soldiers, but is shot and directed at an entirely different skill level. One looks like a television movie, just with ultra violence, and the other looks like an actual major motion picture.
Yep, that sums it up. If you want me to guess what the box office was for this, I'm going to go 40 million again.
66 million. I already said it.
I'm right in the middle.
Repeat after me. Repeat after me, Sam.
Yes.
Bruce Payne is insane.
Bruce Payne is insane.
Bruce Payne as Charles Rain, who makes people repeat after him that Charles Rain is not insane, is a liar, because Bruce Payne as Charles Rain is insane.
This to me was... let me rewind. On our podcast, we have what's called the hyperbole sandwich, which is when we're going to give a score to a movie over 10,000 out of 10,000 because we love it so much, or we think it's so good, or whatever. Alternatively, we have the shits hyperbole sandwich, which is ones that we give under 10,000. And spoiler alert, I probably would give about 4 of these movies hyperbole sandwiches for 3 good reasons and 1 not. But for this, he got me into hyperbole sandwich territory, because it's like everything you loved about Alan Rickman in Die Hard, but on cocaine. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh, yeah. Completely fucking unstable.
Unstable, but like furiously trying to keep it together and seem cold and manipulative and shit like that. It's just like he swallowed the whole bag and he's basically going, oh, hold it together, man. Hold it together. You know, like, it is batshit.
Bruce Payne is acting as if he knows that they wanted to cast Julian Sands, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Couldn't get him, and so he's just decided, I'm going to act so hard in this movie, Julian Sands will never be cast again. He's not just trying to take this guy's role. He's eating whole meals out of scenery to take that guy's entire fucking career. He's like, you know what, Alan Rickman, fuck you. It doesn't make sense because this came out before Face Off. If you could take Castor Troy and put him inside the body of Alan Rickman in Die Hard and make him look like Julian Sands, that's Robert Payne as Charles Rain, who is insane in this fucking movie. You're exactly right. It's as if he was muling drugs on a plane of cocaine up his rectum. The bag exploded, and he is slowly losing his shit on some kind of laced coke. But he's supposed to be cold and calculating because he is bonkers in this movie. Bonkers.
Absolutely. Like I cannot think of another film that I've watched where I've smelt it. You know, and all I could smell was sweat. You know, like this movie just smelt like sweat while I was watching it. I was like, yeah, you know, I can't say enough good things about him. Like, it was so bizarre, yet so, like, invigorating. It's like you can see everything he's going for, and then it's like, oh, you've hit it, and then you just keep shooting over top of it, and you're still going around.
If you can smell this movie, you can also hear it, because this has the most early 1990s soft rock soundtrack. It's like this soundtrack could only, the score for the film could only have been composed at this exact moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
This movie would not sound like this in 1989.
No.
Or even maybe 1990. And it wouldn't sound like this in 1993 or 1994. But in 91, 92, when they made this movie, this is what all movies sounded like. For a while, they all had Muzak scores. Like, there is elevator music scores. Not quite Hans Zimmer, not quite Muzak. That's the score of this movie. And because it ropes in a plane, and it's got like a weird, not quite Lethal Weapon, Muzak, soft rock score with maybe a little bit of saxophone and guitar. But it happens on a plane. Yeah, it's Die Hard, but it's actually Die Hard 2 This is a Die Hard 2 knockoff where they hijack the plane for 15 minutes. Then it becomes a hostage plot on the tarmac for 10 minutes. And then it becomes about them chasing each other around a local carnival conveniently placed directly next to a regional airport of all places. And then like 30 minutes of the movie happens at the carnival. Then they get back on the plane.
I struggle to make sense of it. Like watching it, I remember like the carnival beside the airport. I was like, no, it's America.
Yeah.
They probably do that, But I'm like, but while we're talking about time, my first note about this movie was, I love a film that's 1 hour 23 minutes, and the opening credits are 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Oh, well, here's the thing. This is a short ass movie.
Yeah, very short.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after we get through those opening credits, this fucking movie wastes no time. You know how you're supposed to have an action sequence like every 10 to 15 minutes? They do. And if that requires them to get off the plane or have an emergency landing of the plane or get back on the plane or have a chase sequence on the tarmac or have a hostage situation or mistaken identity, they'll do it all. Like, nobody told these screenwriters, if you're going to do a bottle movie that's about taking a plane hostage in midair and to negotiate whatever the fuck as terrorists and try to get to wherever the fuck, you probably shouldn't get off the plane. Nobody told these guys. They were like 10 minutes on the plane, the rest of the movie's off the plane, last 15 minutes back on the plane. Like, they gave no fucks. They're like, whatever the sequence needs to be, you know what? Let's have a shootout in a carnival on a carousel where the horse heads explode in fire when they're shot. Yeah. Why are porcelain horse heads exploding or whatever the fuck that's made out of? Why are horse heads on a carousel exploding in fire when they're shot? We don't know, but it's happening because it's the 90s and this is what movies were. And yeah, like, do you want to see Wesley Snipes like karate kick a guy off of a merry-go-round or off of a carousel or off of whatever the fuck at the carnival? Then you want to see him race a motorcycle back to the airport to get back on the plane, to get the terrorist guy, and in between be racially profiled by hick cops. Who he then,
yes,
there's racist cops who he then becomes buddies with by the end of the movie, even though they keep calling him boy the entire time and think he's the criminal specifically because he's black. Sure, this is the movie for you.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention the fact that a woman that he met at the start of the movie, he has negative sexual tension with throughout the entirety of the film. By the time we end, they're walking away arm in arm. At no point does it infer that there's any sort of sexual chemistry or flirtation or anything. It's just like, hey, do you want to get out here and go fuck? Oh, hell, now that you put it that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The movie has this weird running subtext of, I shouldn't say weird, it's a unexplored subtext.
Yes. Yeah.
Where when he boards the plane, all the white passengers think that he is Arsenio Hall.
That's right.
And a very dated joke where they woo, 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 woo at him because they think that he is Arsenio Hall. Mm. Therefore, white people can't tell black people apart because they're implicitly racist, right?
Yeah.
Then there's this constant thing that's going on that nobody believes that he is a security expert because of the color of his skin and because he's dressed in casual clothes, whatever. And then our boy, Charles Rain, a.k.a. Bruce Payne, who is insane, when he's talking to him through the walkie-talkies a la Die Hard, actually, no, it's one of the times they're in person where he's like interrogating him, Rain says something about, like, they don't trust you because blah, 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 blah. Like, you're impulsive because of your breeding.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a deeply implied racist remark, right?
Yeah. It's racist, but you got to think about it racist.
Yes. But the way the movie categorizes Rain is that as if he's saying that to him because he knows that's going to get under his skin and that he's trying to get him to react, because if he reacts, then the racist sheriffs will, like, whatever, take him off the case, and he'll be able to get back on his plane and take off again or whatever the fuck the plot of this movie.
Yeah, I forgot the plot halfway through. I legitimately forgot what they were doing and why they were there. I was like, I'm just strapping.
I can't tell you why he wants this plane and where he's trying to go. I know he's trying to go somewhere. I know he's trying to accomplish something. The only thing that matters to me is that Wesley Snipes rules in this movie.
Correct. Yep.
I've said this time and time again. Wesley Snipes has been great in good movies. Wesley Snipes has been good in great movies. Wesley Snipes has been great in bad movies, and he's been in lots of bad movies. But Wesley Snipes has rarely, if ever, been bad himself in any movie.
The only one that springs to mind is Blade 3. And there was a lot of stuff going on in that movie that made that, you know, like he hated the director, he hated the screenwriter, he hated everything about it. That, you know, he was phoning it in as an understatement. But
do you want to know my out for that?
Go.
Because I knew you were going to bring it up. He's not fucking in the movie because it's his stand-in who's in most of the scenes.
That is true.
So Wesley Snipes has technically rarely been bad in a movie because he didn't just phone in that performance. He didn't even show up. He's not physically there.
And even when he is there, they digitally put eyes on him, and it's the digitizer's fault. You know, it's the guy that created those eyes.
Correct.
That did the shitty eyes.
That's right. Yeah. Here's what else makes this great. The cinematographer for this movie is the same cinematographer. His name's Mark Irwin. He worked on The Fly remake, the Cronenberg Fly. He worked on the Blob remake, the 1988. He worked on Scream. He worked on There's Something About Mary.
Damn.
And that is just like 5 films I picked out of like the 400 he's worked on. They got a legitimate cinematographer to shoot the movie. So the movie looks pretty good.
It does look pretty good. I will give it that as well. Yeah, for sure.
And it's very well directed. And when you have Wesley Snipes who's performing to whatever degree actual action sequences, martial arts in camera, himself in wide shots, because there's another fucking guy on this list who doesn't do it. It doesn't even do it in one of his quote unquote good movies that we're going to cover. It's like, here's a movie star who's actually performing stunts that we can see where it's clearly him on screen. And that lifts this movie above the fray, even though it's a hostage movie that's supposed to take place entirely on a plane, and they disembark that plane as fast as they can.
It's amazing.
If you call your movie Passenger 57 and you are in a 90-minute movie, you're on the plane a total of 15 minutes. There's something amiss, but I don't care. I don't care at all.
Maybe it was Passenger 57 on that Ferris wheel. We don't know.
Maybe the horse that he was riding on the carousel was horse 57.
There we go. That's what I was thinking of. The carousel. It was Passenger 57 on the carousel, for sure.
Have I missed anything? Am I inflating this movie too high, or are we in a similar position?
I'm very much in the same position as you. I really had a good time with this. It was the second movie I watched because I watched these guys chronologically. And after the first one, which I hadn't seen before, I was like, I don't know about this. And then messaged Billy from We Watch the Thing, and he's like, I'm doing Tarantino movies. And I was like, I was like, you haven't even seen them, Billy. And he's like, I get to watch Inglourious Basterds. I was like, you shut the fuck up right now, Billy. But like when I started getting into this, I was like, okay, I'm fully in. To the point that when Liz Hurley had her turn, you know, from being just an air hostess to being like second in command of the bad guys or whatever, I was like, no, not you, Liz Hurley. No. Like, I was invested. I was so invested.
No. Oh, no.
No.
Yes, I've never not been invested in Liz Hurley.
Oh, neither.
So
there was that, and my little note here was like, it was so stupid that I loved it, which is the point at which the plane gets taken over and like shots are getting fired and all the other stuff. And then about a minute after that, a lady just comes randomly screaming out of the toilets. And I was like, surely common sense would dictate that you'd stay in the toilets after hearing all of this happen. You wouldn't draw attention to yourself and just come screaming out of the toilets 20 seconds after the shootout's finished. Like, come on, lady.
For me, I give this one a 6.8 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't say it's a good movie, but I also really enjoyed it and I liked it. I would say it is a pizza movie to our patrons over on Patron. You know what that means. So for me, it's 6.8 out of 10, and it's coming at my number 3 for the week. What do you got?
This is so unreal. 6.9 out of 10, just because, like, if I was doing my podcast, I'd turn that to a hyperbole sandwich and chuck it to 69,000 out of 10,000, just as a joke. But, like, yeah, 6.9 out of 10. Like, really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed it.
And it ranks where?
Number 3 as well. Number 3.
Damn!
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay, it's time to move on to, allegedly, according to Paul from the Countdown, one of Steven Seagal's quote-unquote good movies. We're talking about 1992's Under Siege, which currently has a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes.
A terrorist controls the world's most dangerous weapons.
Happy trails.
But there's one weapon he doesn't control. Steven Seagal.
Here come the good guys.
Tommy Lee Jones, Under Siege, rated R. Starts Friday, October 9th at a theater near you.
Under Siege was directed by Andrew David. It was written by J.F. Lawton. It was released October 9th, 1992. It is the triumphant return of Tommy Lee Jones, last seen in Men in Black. It is a triumphant return of Gary Busey, last seen in Predator 2. It is a triumphant return of Nick Mancuso, who played Franco Macaluso in Revelation. It is Apocalypse 2 Revelation, by the way. It is the triumphant return of David McKnight, last seen in Pump Up the Volume. It is a triumphant return of Troy Evans, last seen in Halloween 5. It is a triumphant return of Bernie Casey, last seen in The Mouth of Madness. It's a triumphant return of Colin Meaney, last seen in either Die Hard 2 or Dick Tracy, can't remember. On a budget of $35 million, this film made $156.6 million.
Wow.
A nuke-carrying battleship is taken hostage by lunatics, and only the cunt cook can save the planet.
Yeah, that sums it up. That does sum it up.
Okay, this movie has twice the budget as Passenger 57. So, and we can see some of that, right? Because it's shot at sea. Part of it appears to be on a real battleship or adjacent, stand-in facilities. They obviously had to build some sets. There's some out-to-sea photography, helicopter photography. There's a lot more big stars in this, especially on the villain side at this time. So you can see that. Also, the guy who directs this, Andrew Davis, he's making a triumphant return because he directed The Fugitive, which would come out just a few short years later with Harrison Ford. So you're getting a pretty good director, okay? Also, there's a little gag here that Seagal has where he goes, "What kind of money are they spending on this photo opportunity?" Because they got real live footage of George Herbert Walker Bush, the president of the U.S. at that time, decommissioning a real battleship, a real carrier. And they had to spend a bunch of fucking money to be able to get that. And right afterwards, there's like a in joke, there's a little, here's what I'll say. We spent enough time with Seagal as Ryback to show that he's a man of the people. And what that equates to, Sam, is that Steven Seagal is trying his darndest to be Bruce Willis in this movie.
Yes.
He's like joking around with everybody, and he has no sense of tone or inflection or timing. It's like if Marlon Brando and Bruce Willis, they came together. He's telling jokes. Well, that's right, Cookie. Blah, 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 with all the wait staff and all the underlings in the ship, and they're all pretending to laugh at everything he says. Like, oh, Ryback, you're the best. You should be the captain of this ship, Ryback. I don't want to be a captain. I just want to be one of the boys. And I don't believe any of it for a minute. Of all the movies I was looking forward to revisiting, it was Under Siege, because I remember watching this as a lad and loving it and thinking Steven Seagal was the greatest, because I probably hadn't seen too many Jean-Claude Van Damme movies at the time. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to revisit Under Siege. And this is one of his good ones because Paul from the Countdown told me it was one of his good ones. And there are two shitty parts of Under Siege.
Yep.
One of them is Erica Eleniak.
Yeah.
And the other is Steven Seagal, who is the main character of Under Siege.
Okay. I will go out on a limb and say, look, I really enjoyed this film, but the reason for that is because they gave those two such small roles. Like Steven Seagal is in the first half of the movie, then he just disappears for large portions of it.
That's true.
And that's when the movie shines. You know, like you're talking about budget.
Yes.
The budget was cocaine inside fucking Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey.
Oh.
Those two, what the hell?
Well, here's the thing, though. In this movie, Gary Busey's the sane one. And this is the one. This is the one that takes place after he's had the motorcycle accident in real life, and his brains are scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
So we're not Hider in the House Gary Busey. We're in wackadoo Gary Busey land in real life, and they cast him, and he's playing a villain, a bad guy. But between him and Tommy Lee Jones, he's the understated one. He's playing the straight man villain who's like by the books, and we're going to do it, but we're going to do it by the books. God damn it! To Tommy Lee Jones, who is basically kind of being Two-Face from Batman Forever before he was Two-Face. But there's this extra layer where he is insane, but he's also pretending to be insane so the government won't fucking mess with him, so that he can get the nukes off the ship and accomplish what he wants, so that he can recreate the world. So he is insane, but he's acting even more insane because he goes like over the top about like the hippie revolution in Vietnam, and the government turned on him, and now he's going to go back to being a hippie and all this shit. When that's all said and done, he turns to Busey, goes, "Do you think they bought it?"
Yeah.
Meaning he's not actually that. He's crazy. He's just not that type of crazy. He's a different type of crazy, and he himself, as an insane person, could tell the difference. That's probably more. That sentence I just said is probably more thought than the screenwriters put into this. But Tommy Lee Jones put some thought into it, because if you could have a nuanced performance as a scenery chewing, insane person, that's what he's offering here in Under Siege.
It's phenomenal. It's like, as I mentioned, this is the one that me and my wife rewatched together. Well, she'd never seen this before. And I remember turning to her at one point and saying, if you're thinking to yourself, are you sure that is esteemed actor Tommy Lee Jones? You're right. You are watching Tommy Lee Jones. She's like, what has happened to him? I was like, nobody villained harder in the 90s than Tommy Lee Jones. Like when he got cast as a villain, and this Batman Forever, and there's a couple of other films I'm forgetting, like he just villained himself to death. Like he just went for it and went for it again. You know, it was amazing. Like, and immediately, you know, we are talking about Die Hard knockoffs. We have mentioned the same thing for Passenger 57. It was the same thing in this again. It's just like, we know how much Rickman got applauded and held up and all that sort of stuff. We need to go for just next level villainry, at the same time add a bit of insanity, and it's amazing. Like, it's phenomenal for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, Sam, as a purveyor of breasts that you are, as a breast monger, can I call is that fair that you are a breast monger?
I've been known to dabble.
You've been known to monger in breasts?
Yes, I've been known to monger in a few breasts, yep.
There has got to be a better way to show tits in your movie than the inclusion of this sidekick character. It's like they couldn't decide, do we want to have a character... Do we want to have a woman show her tits jumping out of a cake? Yes. Is that regressive and kind of sexist and like sleazy? So, and it's the 90s now, so we can't quite get away with that sort of shit. So we want to make her a actual heroine who has some kind of a character arc and is involved in the actual action of the plot. Yes. Do we also forget to write her as an actual character? And so for the most part, after she's done screaming and whining and crying and potentially getting them killed and fumble fucking her way through the movie, she disappears. And when she does reappear, she maybe is quasi-romantically involved with Ryback, who she has had absolutely zero chemistry. Correct. Where they also somehow have, even though she's supposed to be a Penthouse or Playboy Playmate of the Year from like 87, she's also somehow behaving as if she's like his daughter.
Yeah.
Like they had no fucking clue what to do with this character.
In terms of relationships between main characters, like this is probably second on my worst out of all of these films. You know, like Passenger 57 was pretty bad. This is even worse. Like, and you're right, like the boobs popping out of the cake. I can't help but look at that and wonder to myself, what's been going on? Has she been in there for approximately 4 or 5 hours, scrunched up inside this cake? Passed out maybe, needs to go to the toilet, you know, needs hunger, needs nutrition, something like that, you know, like what has happened to this woman?
Well,
and then she, like, without any music, without any prompting, the cake rolls and she just pops out literally like a jack in the box with no top on, ready to go.
And there's nobody in the room. And at that point, it doesn't make sense because...
Oh, no.
Yeah,
There is a nobody in the room, but yeah, go on. Yep.
Yeah. Well, how... Okay, you got motion sick, you took motion sickness pills, you fall asleep. Understood. At that point, the movie doesn't need to show her tits.
No.
She was there to jump out of a cake. She took too many pills. You know, they didn't drug her. She took too many pills, right?
Correct, yeah.
She's like, well, if 2 works, I'm real sick. I'll take 8. And so she knocked herself out. She could have just come to and been groggy and wandering the ship and found out, oh my God, there's a terrorist attack. And then Seagal, like, snatches her, right? And like informs her, and then she becomes a sidekick or whatever. Or she could have just been in a character who had no name and was not a person, who was just a background player who popped out of a cake earlier in the movie to show some tits.
Yeah.
Like the movie didn't need anybody to show their tits, but the movie also didn't need to make her a character and then still have her show her tits to an empty room, just both basically for the benefit of the audience.
Correct, yeah. No, that's all it was.
In the most nonsensical way. Then she is a horrible actress in a horribly written role who is excruciating to listen to speak the entirety of the movie.
Correct. Absolutely. 100%. It's kind of sad because 10-year-old me, when I watched this the first time, like when she popped out of the cake, I was like, oh my God, this is the best movie ever. And now in hindsight, now watching it 30 years later, it's like, what the hell is this? And her acting performance as well. I remembered her from, like all hot-blooded males in New Zealand in the early 90s. Used to watch Baywatch. Remembered her on that.
Oh, sure.
Used to, steal Playboys off from friends' dads and stuff like that, of course. So I was like, oh, Rika Liniak, that's amazing. And then... yeah, now in hindsight, and don't look at her Instagram. I made that mistake while watching the film. It's not nice what's happened to her. It's gone a bit sort of.
Is she one of the ones that's gone off the deep end politically?
I didn't find that, but I found a lot of Karen. I found a lot of Karen behavior and like
a lot of anti-vax behavior.
I suspect so. I didn't get that far. Yeah. It was 3 images in, and she'd used a filter on her face that was supposed to be promotion for her natural health podcast or something, and I just thought to myself, I can't do this. Talking about nuclear weapons, this retroactively nuclear bombed my boner from 1992. That's what this movie did.
The other thing is, okay, I don't want to rewrite the movie, but if you're going to have a character like her, recast with somebody who'd actually act.
Correct.
Let's get away from the exploitation of showing boobs. And here's the thing. I'm not against seeing boobs in movies or nudity or balls or scrotum or dong or whatever. Hang it all out, whatever you got. No need to be ashamed. Everybody's asses, everybody's bits and bobbles and whatnot. Show it all. I don't give a shit. But if you want to get away from the exploitation, why couldn't she have just been, especially because at this time, there was so much chatter and talk about women in the military in the U.S. and blah, 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 blah. There were already female naval officers at this time. Why couldn't she have just been the only female on a ship full of dudes who was completely underestimated by her peers?
Yeah.
Except for maybe Ryback or whatever. And the two of them have to work together to take back the ship.
Yeah, have her as an overachiever. That would be awesome. Like
it's the cook and the quote unquote, the woman, the girl, the female who have to save. And who are they saving the ship from? But all of these ultra macho, the CIA spook Tommy Lee Jones and the asshole commander Gary Busey, right? So it's like these discounted people have to save the ship against the people the military looks at as being like the top echelon, if that makes any sense. Like that would be a good juxtaposition. You can actually write her as a character. That way she doesn't feel forced as a sidekick or as a co-partner in the movie. And you're not like, why is this woman who took her top off for 15 seconds now the main character? We don't have to deal with any of that. We don't have to deal with like how does she get in the cake and when does she wake up, and now that get rid of all that stuff that doesn't make any sense, and you could just have her be, she was cast aside and put in some remote part of the ship because she's a woman. And that's the thing that keeps her from being taken hostage. And then, because then when you have all of these older veterans who end up joining the team, right? Like Battleship style, where all these World War II and Korean veterans end up helping Seagal take over the ship. Then you're making like a commentary on it's old people, it's wounded warriors, it's women, it's cooks, it's discredited people who are teaming up against the meatheads, and then you have like an actual movie because like they kind of wrote that, but then they didn't.
Yeah, it absolutely could be infinitely better for sure. I completely agree. Are you familiar with her film that she did 2 years later called Chasers?
Chasers.
I was struggling to remember.
No,
I remember the cover, and the plot is a hapless Navy sailor is assigned SP duty. The catch: he must escort a beautiful female prisoner on her way to prison for going UA, don't know what that means, military term, I guess, but she in turn will try anything to escape. It came out 2 years later, so if you thought this was pretty terrible for her, she gets worse. Directed by Dennis Hopper.
Wait,
what the fuck?
Who is she? Who's the guy in the movie?
Tom Berenger and William McNamara.
Oh, no, nope, never even heard of it.
Oh, it's bad.
It was supposed to be a routine prisoner transfer.
Bring up Johnson!
They just send the two of you for this prisoner?
She's on!
Help, please! They're trying to kill me!
But she is no ordinary prisoner.
Hi, boys!
Come back here! Tom Berenger, Erica Eleniak, and William McNamara in a Dennis Hopper film, Chasers. Music by Dwight Yoakam and Pete Anderson. Rated R.
Oh, it's bad. I remember like legitimately hiring it because of the cover as a 12-year-old boy, and then me and my friend just being like, no, this isn't, no. Puberty could not save me from how terrible that film was.
The composer here, Gary Chang, is doing his best Michael Carmen, who's a composer for Die Hard. He's doing his best impression. This is about Die Hard ripoff. This music is 100% Die Hard ripoff music. Thing is, Die Hard music's pretty good, so the movie's pretty good. The final knife fight sequence between a perpetually elderly Tommy Lee Jones, who was 75 in 1994, and a fake master of a pretend martial art is absolutely pathetic on screen.
Correct.
Watching these two with this knife fight, there's no other word for it. It is pathetic.
Correct. I've got nothing to add. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. The parts of this film that are saved are legitimately just some of these interactions between these characters. The action scenes are terrible. Seagal's terrible. There's like, it also has like some, like you mentioned there's some sort of self-awareness, but there's also major parts that aren't. Like he's being protected by a Marine, like a junior Marine or whatever. He's being protected. Junior Marine gets shot like 7 or 8 times at least, like through the chest, was while protecting Seagal, who's locked inside a meat locker. When Seagal gets out of that meat locker, he walks over to the Marine, sticks his fingers on his neck, and tries to check if he's still alive. And it's like, this is our protagonist. How are we supposed to get behind this moron? Like,
I mean, I don't have an answer for you, Sam.
No, why would you? There's no answer.
The answer is I didn't get behind him, and that's what diminished this movie upon its rewatch. Where the thing with this movie, look, the director and Tommy Lee Jones, and to some extent Gary Busey, but again, he's playing more of the straight man as far as the two insane maniacs go. They put this movie on their collective backs, and they drag it towards decency.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Against all inertia created by Steven Seagal, against all negative momentum created by Seagal's performance, if that's what you want to call it, and his martial arts, if that's what you want to call them, and everything else. So the thing that hurts this movie is I cannot, to your point, get behind the protagonist because I don't believe him. I don't like him. I don't believe him. And I can't get behind the other protagonist because I don't like her and I don't believe her. So on a week like this, it comes in at my number 2. Any other week, it probably would have been worst of the week. But this is my number 2 for this week, the Die Hard Knockoffs. I give it a 7.2 out of 10.
This is amazing. I've given it 7.3 out of 10. I was just double checking. And yet I liked it. I feel like I was way more glowing and positive than you were, but yet we're very similar in score.
And what was your rank on it?
Yeah, 7.3 out of 10. 7.3.
No, but what's your rank?
Oh, yeah, number 2. Yeah, number 2 for sure. Yeah.
Are we going to diverge at all?
No.
I don't think so.
No, that's what I'm saying. We are lockstep. I'm like checking this and I was like, there's no way he could have that as number 1. I would seriously think he is AI, that he's been programmed with some sort of script of you cannot be negative about a certain famous person. You know what I mean? I'll be like, well, there's no way. There's no way. Anyway.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the most electrifying man in sports, entertainment, distilled spirits, and energy drinks. He has never knowingly or unknowingly used performance-enhancing drugs. Black Adam was the biggest box office hit of 2022. Watch it.
Let's see if the synchronicity continues. Sam the Man. We're going to 1995 now, still stuck in the 90s. Of course, I'm talking about Sudden Death, which currently has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
This holiday season, the only action in town is on the ice. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sudden Death, rated R. Starts Friday, December 22nd.
Sudden Death was directed by I don't know if he's great, but I love him, Peter Hyams. It was written by Gene Quintano, who wrote Loaded Weapon 1 and Police Academy 3 through 4. So it's a triumphant return. This film was released December 22nd, 1995. It is a triumphant return of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Last seen in Street Fighter is a triumphant return of Powers Booth. Last seen in The Avengers. Love Powers Booth, by the way. We're going to get to him. Triumphant return of Ross Malinger. Last seen in Kindergarten Cop and Sleepless in Seattle. I don't remember which came first there. Triumphant return of Dorian Harewood, last seen in Full Metal Jacket. On a budget of $35 million, the movie grossed $64.4 million. The U.S. Vice President and 17,000 screaming fans are taken hostage during Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and only a disgraced and traumatized firefighter can save the day.
I didn't move, Jason. Even when the building started falling down, I didn't move.
I just want to make a little note here that the Chicago hockey team here was played by none other than now defunct minor league farm team, the Cleveland Lumberjacks, baby. Run up the road for me. Yeah, NIL or whatever the fuck it was called at the time. Peter Hyams is like typically a pretty hands-on director when it comes to cinematography. Like not every director does their own cinematography, and there's the relationship between a director and his cinematographer or DP or director of photography varies from director to director and project to project. So it's really hard to say like, well, who did what? Who determined the shots? Who set up the shots? Who did this? Who did that? Then of course you also have ADs, assistant directors and secondary units and whatnot. So the dividing lines are not always as clear as you would think based on IMDb listings. But in the case of Peter Hyams, he's typically his own cinematographer as well as his own, like he's the director of the project as well. Peter Hyams may be the best director of bad movies ever. And what I mean by that is you give him a shitty fucking movie and he's going to make it look like James Cameron directed that shit. He's going to give you smoky, widescreen movies with strong usage of in-frame lighting and shadows. He's going to give you a movie that looks like $1 billion and will only gross $30 million or $60 million. Like he is the biggest bang for your buck director of his era. You brought Peter Hyams in and you're like, we got to make a sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. We got to make a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's all-time visionary, work of art, based on a sequel book that people don't like as much. Who do we bring in? Peter Hyams. We've got to make, just the list goes on. We've got to make a Die Hard clone that takes place in a hockey arena during the Stanley Cup Finals, during the deciding game, down to sudden death, where Jean-Claude Van Damme fights the Pittsburgh Penguins mascot to death. And you know what? Peter Hyams directs the living shit out of this movie. What he does is a lost art. People, I'm going to say this. In his heyday, he was never considered a top director.
No.
But Sam, I'm willing to die on this hill, and maybe it's just because I'm an old man. Peter Hyams movies look better than 99% of movies made today from the best directors.
Wow.
I'm not saying the movies are better. I'm saying they look better. They're shot on film. They're shot wide. They're shot with a lot of practical effects. He has interesting shot composition. His movies are blocked. People used to block their fucking movies. What happened to blocking, folks? You know what happened to it? They get a bunch of people at different times, never at the same time, to stand on a soundstage on a fucking green tarp and react to tape on a wall, and then they composite them all in a shot together, and then they just throw pre-rendered graphics behind them, and then nothing is blocked, and eye lines don't make sense, and nothing makes sense, and you don't consciously notice it, but you subconsciously notice it.
It's a little disjointed.
Seems like a lot of short scenes.
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
But in these movies, you went to an arena during a lockout of the NHL season, and to give money to the team because they couldn't sell fucking tickets, they let you blow up their goddamn building, and you blew up their goddamn building, and you had Jean-Claude Van Damme fucking flipping over dishwashing machines from industrial kitchens and chucking real knives at real fucking people. And that shit was great. It's not a good movie. It's a movie that's made well. It's not written well. It's made well. And people don't make movies well anymore. The people who made Red Notice couldn't make this movie if you gave them a million years.
No.
Movies cost $100 million and they look like fucking dog shit. You gave Peter Hyams $30 million and he gave you something that looked like it was a Terminator 2 ripoff.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
That's my rant.
No, I'm there with you, man. This does look better than like most modern films. You hear that, Russo brothers? You hear that, Christopher Nolan? You hear that, James Cameron? Eat shit. You guys couldn't do this. You guys couldn't make this with this budget, with this cast. Fuck you.
Get fucked.
Yeah. Bring in Roger Deakins. I don't give a shit. Eat shit.
There is some hyperbole there, but the truth is the average movie today does not look as good as the average Peter Hyams movie.
No.
Let alone movies with 6 times the budget of an average Peter Hyams movie.
Correct. He was very much a product of the 90s, and if you look at his filmography, it is literally like, yeah, there's a Time Cop, hey, there's In Today's, stuff like that you're like, oh yeah, I remember those films, but like they have very distinct visual styles that you do remember. And
yes,
like
the scripts are dog shit, but they look good.
The scripts are dog shit. He's polished the hell out of that shit. You could hang that shit in the
Yeah,
mood.
he made the best looking turds he possibly could. Again, I'm not arguing for the scripts. He wasn't writing shit. I'm not arguing for the movies he directed. I'm saying as a director, he was immensely more talented. You would see a trailer for one of his dog shit movies and be like, that looks like a real movie. And he just on the look of it alone, he could trick you into going to the theater to see it.
I'm telling you now, man, like in 1,000 years, there's going to be people walk around the Smithsonian. They're like, here's the original reels for Citizen Kane. Here's the original reels for Son of Death. Here's the original,
This is the last great filmmaker of the 20th century. Peter Hyams.
Heralded as a genius,
From this point forward, it was all digital,
yeah.
and all of that was lost in the great EMP wars of 2027.
Exactly.
Yeah. The AI went and erased everything, but they couldn't get to the film negatives of sudden death. So once we overcome our AI overlords, the only thing we'll have left is Peter Hyams movies.
Could we watch The Legend of Darren McCord again, Dad? Oh, we sure can, son.
Can we watch The Relic starring Tom Sizemore? Yep, you sure can.
What a world.
We got it over here on 35 millimeter, baby. Yeah. When we're living in our caves. The only screenings they'll have in our caves in Zion will be Peter Hyams movies.
Imagine it. Oh, what a place.
As we're hiding from the robot apocalypse, yes.
That's heaven. That's heaven, people. You guys are lucky.
Here's what I'll give this movie. It is stupid, but the movie is also kind of clever in that every time the action of the main plot needs to stop, Like, we got to get away from Van Damme. Like, we got a Van Damme fight scene. We got Powers Booth, chewing up the scenery, being a delicious villain. Yeah. You could just cut to the action on the ice. The movie never stops because you're always cutting to something is fucking happening on screen, and it's extremely well shot.
Yeah.
I think Peter Hyams accidentally directed the best hockey movie of all time.
Correct.
This is the most hockey has ever made sense to me in my life.
So here's a fun fact for you. I absolutely love ice hockey. Like, it's as far as American sports that came down here, there's mates who are into basketball, there's mates who are into NFL. Well, no one likes baseball outside of America. but hockey.
The Japanese love baseball, sir.
Correct. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. There are some, Central American countries that love it as well. But
yeah, that's true.
Hockey
yes.
was the one that me and all my buddies used to play on PlayStation, and we all had our own favorite teams. And it's like one of the best games to play against each other aside from soccer. It's like, you can get competitive, goals can come out of nowhere, you can smoke the hell out of your, other dude, you have fights. There was all of this interesting stuff woven into it. And I love that saying that hey, I went to a fight the other night and a hockey game broke out. It's like, that was peak 90s for me. And one of my mates' teams was the Pittsburgh Penguins. He loved the Penguins. Mine was Detroit Red Wings. And I loved Luke Robitaille because Luke Robitaille eventually ended up playing for the Detroit Red Wings. And when Luke Robitaille was in this, for years and years and years, me and a friend have been quoting this movie wrong, which is, hey, Dad, look, it's Luke Robitaille. Dad, look, it's Luke Robitaille. We used to say that to each other whenever we meet somebody and his name was Luke. We'd be like, hey, look, it's Luke Robitaille. And then spend 5 minutes trying to explain to this poor Luke what the fuck we were talking about. It turns out, and then we always thought he went, how are you doing, son? But he actually doesn't say that. He says something else, and that was quite disappointing. But there's not a great many hockey films. In fact, there's Slapshot, which is really good comedy, and then there's Goon, and then there's Mystery Alaska. As I said, big hockey fan, seen all of these, but this is Miracle. Mighty Ducks 1 through 3. Yes. Oh, Mighty Ducks, not a Mighty Ducks fan. That's a hot take for another day.
Me either.
But, I do love Miracle just because the story behind it is pretty impressive. But this legitimately awesome action. When he saves, when he conservatively in the space of 20 seconds puts on a full hockey goalie's outfit, which probably takes about 25 to 30 minutes, while he's on the run from bad guys, gets fully dressed in a hockey goalie's outfit, goes out, makes a save, and then everyone's cheering. The dude fell over. The guy shot the puck straight at him and he fell over. It's if he hadn't moved, it would have been a better save because he could have controlled the puck and passed it to one of his players. Instead, he fell over like he's just been shot from the audience. And, everyone's cheering. I was like, surely you get it. It wouldn't just be the son getting the, signal of holy shit, is that my dad out there? Surely everyone in that audience would have been like, why is our 6'4" goalie being replaced by a 5'8"?
Yeah. Who the fuck is that guy?
Who is that guy? Why is he out there? What is going on? And secondly, our goalie's gone off with a concussion. Is that right? He went off with a concussion or something, and then he's like, put me back on the ice, coach. You're not supposed to be going anywhere. Hey, Tolliver or whatever, are you okay? Okay, yeah, get out there. Go.
Look, I did not watch this movie because I wanted it to apply to the laws of physics and the laws of hockey. I watched this movie because it's smoky and it's blue, and again, it looks like James Cameron ghost directed it on a day off from True Lies, and that's why I like Peter Hyams movies. I liked it because Powers Booth, first of all, what a pseudonym. Powers Booth.
Yep.
May he rest in peace. It's like Max Power. It's like a Homer Simpson name. He is relishing every minute of being a total wackadoo bad guy in this movie. But the great thing is his performance is unlike any of the other Rickman ripoff performances we have seen thus far. He actually just genuinely relishes shooting the mayor of Pittsburgh's wife in the chest because he doesn't like her. And then 20 minutes later, for no reason, just shooting the mayor of Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah. Please, he needs a doctor.
Not anymore. Go ahead. Dead heroes get the best funerals. Thanks for your help, Andrew. His wife's recently deceased. He had been lonely without her. I hope that clarifies the urgency of this mission. Only your best behavior is going to be good enough.
That agent's name was Eddie Kaline. He has a 5-year-old boy, a 3-year-old little girl, and his wife's pregnant.
I'll send a card.
What do you want?
What do I want? World peace, an end to bigotry, and no more mini-malls. What am I going to get? And I am going to get it. That, boys and girls, is really hot.
What is your objective?
My objective? I get funny all over when you talk like that. I know just what you're thinking. Evaluate the situation, calculate potential losses, and take appropriate action. Let me do that for you. The situation is hopeless. Losses would be unacceptable. So the appropriate action is for you to do nothing and keep your fucking mouth shut.
What kind of lunatic are you?
The best kind. But you can keep calling me names if it makes you feel better.
I also love the fact that when he's like shows up and he wants to show people he means business, he just like shoots a couple people in the fucking legs.
Exactly.
He's like, I'll kill people. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to kill them every 50. If I don't have X amount of money at the end of every period, I'm going to kill somebody. And then eventually I'm going to work my way up to the vice president. And I'm going to kill him. And if you try to breach, I'll blow up the entire fucking building and I'll kill myself. And of all the movies that I've watched in this binge, the one guy who I truly believe would blow himself up taking the vice president with him is Powers Booth. I 100% believe if this guy doesn't get that money, he's going to blow that stadium up. He'll kill everybody in there, including himself.
The only one I'd put up there that would possibly do that as well is Sean Astin, but it wouldn't be intentional.
Sean Astin's supposed to be the protagonist.
Exactly. Like, I can imagine him blowing himself up and the president for
blowing himself up with his mouthwash moonshine.
Exactly. Yeah. A batch that's gone wrong and then destroying about 70,000 square miles of just, Yeah.
I also love the fact that we're not cutting a Powers Booth just shooting random fucking mayors and deputy mayors and their wives with the vice president. Threatening to shoot kids, giving no fucks, threatening to blow himself up, or cutting to Van Damme killing beloved mascots, or to intense hockey, action. We're also then cutting to like slasher-like deaths.
Yes.
To the point that the bodies end up being staged around the arena, like Michael Myers did it. It's really strange.
It is really strange. I was thinking of that just as you were talking about the woman, like the original mascot, just come falling out of the cupboard. Like
yeah.
like she's been
yes, like John Carpenter directed. You're like, is this fucking Halloween? All of
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Good.
I honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of watching this. I enjoyed it so much that I'm going to put myself on a limb here, Sam, and I'm going to tell you, I give this movie a 7.7, and I'm going to say that definitively this is the greatest Die Hard knockoff of all time.
I gave it a 7.9.
And it's your number
one with a bullet. Number one
yes!
with a bullet.
Number one with a puck.
Absolutely. Oh, with a
yes!
puck, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Like
here's the one thing I will say about the movie. It's actually a pretty decent movie as far as these movies go. The ending kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
When Powers Booth is like, the way I'm going to get out of here is I'm going to put on a very noticeable wig and a very fake mustache, just walk out of here in a members only jacket and hope that nobody notices. And then the special effects of Van Damme like hanging from the scoreboard and all that sort of shit. They try to do some like weird compositing / CGI. That was never Peter Heim's forte. So the ending kind of falls apart, but everything up to that ending is like, for what this is, it's pretty damn good.
It is pretty good. Like the one part of the ending that really got me was that there's a ladder dangling from the helicopter and he jumps onto the ladder, pulls himself up maybe 3 or 4 rungs, then shoots out the pilot. And I was like, surely you do that from the comfort of the roof as opposed to dangling in the air and potentially killing yourself that way. Like there are moments, like don't get me wrong, there are a lot of moments in this that make me scratch my head. We did an episode of Jingle All the Way, and one of my questions was, why is a heavily Austrian accented man's name Howard Langston? And in this, it's Darren McCord. Why is a heavily accented man Darren McCord, a very Scottish last name, Yeah, we've got a
He's
guy with a very Belgian name.
He's very Belgian accent, but they tell you that he's from Quebec originally.
Oh,
remember?
correct.
And because he's from Canada, that's why he knows how to play hockey, because he was a collegiate goalie who could have gone pro, because that's all they do in Canada. Shout out to Binge Lord Dan and many others in Canada, all of our Quebecers up there. Yeah.
Damn. Okay, yep.
They explain it away.
Yeah, okay, yep.
He's a Quebecer who is of Scottish ancestry, who happens to sound like a Belgian man.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, I can believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm nitpicking on stupid things in this movie, I mean, yeah, okay, fine. I'll give that a pass.
He's the muscles from Brussels by way of Quebec. He's got triple citizenship, bro.
That's true, yeah.
I believe him more as a disgraced firefighter who immigrated from Canada, because I'm an American, so I can't distinguish accents one from another. We've already established this, Sam. Then I believe that he is Colonel Guile of the U.S. military in Street Fighter 2.
I was wondering which one you were going to go with. I was like, is he going to go with Fred Dukes? Is he going to go with Fred Dukes from Bloodsport or whatever it is? But no, Colonel Guile, that's a very good point.
USA. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. All right, moving on to a movie that is somehow more of a video game than even the video game of Street Fighter 2, the movie, which is a movie that is based on a video game that is based on a movie. I think I got that wrong. It is 2018 Skyscraper. Talk about AI. Shit, this thing was directed, written, starred, and shot by a fucking MacBook. This movie somehow has a 48%
what?
Rotten Tomatoes.
Fuck off. That cannot be real.
My family is trapped 240 floors in the air.
Do exactly what I say.
You don't want to do this.
Hold on, baby.
I'm coming for you.
Not gonna make it in time.
Daddy! You picked the wrong guy.
Skyscraper, rated PG-13.
Skyscraper was directed by a person who is not a real human being. Their name is allegedly Rawson Marshall Thurber. Even that name sounds like it was AI generated. It was written by Rawson Marshall Thurber. Even that name sounds like it was computer generated. It is the triumphant return of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, not seen since the days of Doom. It's a triumphant return of Chin Han, not seen since the days of Ghost in the Shell. And it is the triumphant return of Noah Taylor, last seen in Edge of Tomorrow. This film was released July 1st, 2018 in Beijing, and then July 13th, 2018 in the United States. And a budget of between 125 and 129 million. See Sam's comments about Peter Hyams from the last segment. This movie made $304.9 million. Traumatized firefighter is a one-legged man in an ass-kicking VR simulator.
And produced by Chinese box office.
This movie, yes, despite the fact that it was produced by Chinese money and debuted in China because of that, and was created basically to try to capture the Chinese market. It underperformed to the point that this effectively ended the deal between Legendary and Universal, the distribution deal they had, where Universal distributed Legendary's pictures. When you look back, Sam, as a listener of your show, when you look back, because I know you've covered a lot of this stuff, at peak era rock as a box office draw, when was that? No, not necessarily the movies per se, but like the years. Would 2018 be one of those years? Because I don't think he is see Black Adam. I don't think he is in his peak box office years anymore.
I feel like his peak box office was around the early 2010s when they started putting him into other franchises in an effort to revitalize those franchises. So he got chucked in the Fast and Furious franchise, and then suddenly it took off again.
Yeah.
And then he got chucked in the G.I. Joe franchise in the hopes that it would do that, but it didn't. And I'm just really struggling to remember, because I know like there was Rampage, there was a couple of other films that all came out around the same time as each other, and it was like, how sick are we of The Rock by now? You know, like, yeah.
Yeah. Jumanji.
Yeah, Jumanji's probably the standout for sure, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to say, like, are you sick of one of the most charismatic people on earth? Yeah, because I'm sick of the movies he keeps choosing to make and the roles he keeps trying to take and play. Because this movie is nothing more than Towering Inferno plus Die Hard plus a cartoon.
Yeah.
This is one of the most aggressively fake movies I've ever seen.
It is legitimately terrible. And it's funny you mentioned that he's like one of those charismatic guys. Like, you follow his Instagram or whatever, like he is like, he seems like a genuinely nice guy, like the type of celebrity that if you bumped into a bar, you'd be like, oh my God, and you'd be like, hey, bro, whatever, beer or something, and you'd be like, yeah, awesome, you know. But like,
have a shot of Tiamana, whatever,
exactly.
on me.
Like, he feels like he'd be a legitimately nice celebrity, yet, and he always was that kind of charismatic, that kind of bold and brash, like a little bit of cocky. Like, I've never been a massive wrestling guy, and I sort of had a passing interest in it.
Okay, that ends the show. Get the fuck off. Get the fuck off.
Like, as an adult, I've never been a massive wrestling guy. As a kid, loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then sort of he drew me back in, and Steve Austin and all those guys in, like, you know, the late 90s. And he always used to be this arrogant, cocky, yet charismatic, yet you kind of root for him. And like, it's like he had a certain amount of that, like he had a tank of that, and every movie he's like come out guns blazing in the first one, used up half the tank and gone, I've got heaps left, and then it's just getting whittled down, and now we're just getting the dregs of it, that we get movies like, was it Red Notice or whatever it's called, where we get these like small slivers of, in one scene he's just like, you know, hey, and then the rest of it's like, blah, 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 blah. Black Adam was a great example of that. Was a great example of like, okay, Black Adam, he's like, he's cold, he's like strong, he's like basically a god on earth. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. And then just like an entire 2-hour runtime of just a totally disinterested guy. And it's like, you know, he's out there, he's like, I love this film, I love everything we did, you know, this is one of the best films, I've been trying to make this for 15 years. Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like you gave a shit.
After 3 boring minutes, The Rock says, know your role and shut your mouth!
I second that.
It's sad.
Here's the thing is, I think he's actually trying in Skyscraper.
Okay. I didn't get that feeling.
I think he's trying to act. I think he's trying to bring pathos to this character and make you believe that this guy like loves his kids and is a hero and is traumatized and all this sort of stuff. And you know, I have a prosthetic limb and da 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 da. And I hate to be cynical and say they probably picked that because then he could say, I brought a bunch of people who've real wounded firefighters onto the set and I donated this, da da da. And it was like built in PR and goodwill. And how can you boo against a hero who's, has a disability and all this sort of stuff? And, he uses his prosthetic leg to be able to Home Alone his way from the centrifuge of a fake skyscraper. It's also a VR chamber that for some reason is so powerful. The bad guys want it because they want the money for the thing that he built the building with or whatever the fuck. None of this matters. The only thing that matters is they put all these elements into the Unreal Engine, and all of this movie takes place in Quake 2 because none of it looks fucking real. None of this looks real. There's a video that was done with Adam Savage from Mythbusters and works behind the scenes on movies like as a prop builder, and he wanted to sell a debate once and for all, which is what is better, practical effects or digital effects? And so there's a shot in Chinatown where it's the famous shot where they take a stiletto switchblade and they, spoilers, cut the shit out of Jack Nicholson's nose, right? And it's all in camera, no cuts. They stuck a knife in his fucking nose and blood goes across his face and up into his eye. And for years, people couldn't figure out how the fuck did they do that without actually cutting the guy's nose, right? So they tried to recreate that using the exact same technology that was available to them of how they did it with And then they did it digitally, right? with the same props, but they didn't have to worry about how they did it because they could just do it digitally. And then they compared it, they got a digital group, I think it's probably Corridor Crew or whoever, another YouTube channel of guys who work in the industry, and they compared the footage. It was all shot, back to back. What looked more believable? And what looked more believable was when they put a real knife in his nose and they cut his face and the blood went up his face. It was real blood. It was his performance. They actually had Savage being the one doing the performance, was that much more believable. And what they pointed out was it's not so much the knife. It's not so much even the blood or how the blood looks or how your eyes register the blood. The digital blood splatter kind of, because they did it really well, kind of looked like real blood. It didn't look that much distinguishably different from the fake blood, the physical blood. What they figured out was having a real something in your nose really pushing against your nostril and an unpredictable splatter of blood that went actually into your eye got all of these micro reactions in the face and in the performance that him trying to imagine what it feels like to have a knife up your fucking nose and him trying to imagine what the blood would feel like couldn't capture. So when you get a bunch of actors in a void where they made this movie, wherever that was, the imaging chamber from fucking Quantum Leap, and you gushy the thing and you try to just do it as a fucking hologram, and nothing is real and nothing they're interacting with is real, and the chairs in the room that they're sitting on aren't real, and it's like a high-end version of a Neil Breen film, then you're never going to get those subtle reactions that you get out of, say, a Die Hard when you drop Alan Rickman out of even though it's a building of 3/4 scale, when you drop him off of a fucking real height without telling him when you're going to release him. And you release him earlier at 1 instead of 3. Yeah. And that look on his face is a real reaction.
Correct. Yep.
You're either getting performance or you're getting simulation. And movies that are made like Skyscraper, because they're happening in simulated worlds, you're getting simulated performances. You're getting simulated emotion, not real emotion. And that's the unspoken uncanny valley. Beyond whether or not the digital effects are passable or not, the performances aren't passable. And that's the biggest fucking sin of this slog of a movie that is also written with the mentality of a 1980s Saturday morning cartoon of like, why the fuck is Neve Campbell suddenly allowed to just run around with Chinese FBI agents, whatever the fuck they are, Chinese cops? Why is she like, I need to go to the crime scene where I think the terrorists are? Why? And they're like, oh yeah, you should come with us. Yes. Why? One, why do they believe her? And two, why do they let her go along?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I know the film tries to explain it at one point, but there's no plausible explanation. I mean, from a filmmaking perspective, hey, we want to keep the audience engaged. Yes, you want to keep your star up on the screen, but when it's like so inexplicably unexcusable for them being there, it's just like, how, why, how? Get rid of her. She shouldn't be there.
But here's the thing. Back to Under Siege. Okay, we don't want Neve Campbell just to be the mom who takes the kids to the zoo in a scene we didn't bother filming. We want Neve Campbell to be in the movie because she's a star of some quality, and because, who knows, maybe she tests well in China. Who the fuck knows? But we want to put Neve Campbell in it, and we have to have her do stuff. But then she does it other than like, oh, I also speak Chinese, so I know you're talking shit about my family. It's not as if she gets any action beats. It's not as if she gets like a fight scene at some point where they get to the criminal thing and it turns out this person's a double agent and she has to fight him. She just ends up standing on the street as a bystander, watching her husband use his fake leg and duct tape to dance around outside the building on a giant LED screen that just happens to be sitting down on street level. It's like, what in the fuck? Why keep her in the movie? Why cast her and keep her in the movie if she's not going to do anything?
The only action scene we get is when she's in the back of that police car and that the evil villainess or whatever you want to call her shows up and then hands Nev Campbell's ass to her. She like kicks the shit out of her in the back of a police car. But then we have to have her there because like, you know, I don't know what it is. You know, like Powers Booth shoots a woman in the chest. Sure, that's fine. But we can't have somebody beating up the evil woman except for another woman. So like, you know, the policemen show up, gun on the bad girl, and then Nev Campbell punches her right in the face. And it's like, okay. But it's like, what? It's so convoluted. Yeah. It's beyond convoluted.
Well, yes, it's beyond. It's it's beyond convoluted. I guess she gets another action beat when he says, "Take this elevator, cut the brakes, free fall through fire, through an inferno with our small children for 555 million feet, and then at the 620th million foot, hit the brakes."
Yeah, exactly.
And you should be fine. And then she does it, and we're supposed to be like, "Oh my God!" And it's just like, I can't believe that this person in this video game cutscene is going to survive. This is when I watched it the first time. This is the second time I've seen it. It was indecipherably like this isn't a movie.
No,
I'm just going to go out and say this is not a motion picture. I don't know what it is. It's not quite a video game, not quite a cartoon, not quite a movie. It just is this weird simulation or simulacra. I don't fucking know. This is some cyberpunk William Gibson dystopian filmmaking bullshit.
It's like a 12-year-old boy who's jacked up on Mountain Dew has been given like, oh, hey, I'm going to give you sort of, I don't know, whatever it is, like here's three things. You've got The Rock, you've got a skyscraper, and you've got terrorists. And the traveler, make a story, and the traveler will go, this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And it's all of that is just come out of his brain and just being projected onto, and then this happens. And like, and then he's on top of a crane, and then you think he's not going to make it, and yes, he should fall like a stone, pun intended, or fall like a rock, whatever you want to say, but he leaps 50 fucking meters through the air. Sorry, 150 feet. Leaps 150 feet straight. You know, no like angle, no loop. He just shoots straight. What the fuck are you on about, kid? It's so unreal that they're going to have mirrors at the end, or there's mirrors everywhere, and you don't know where anybody is, and they're everywhere. There's a million rocks. Fucking shoot me.
Yeah. We're also going to, the building is going to have this thing where all the necessary security protocol equipment to be able to do everything you need to do to be able to open the vault is going to be in this giant fan, but the giant fan's going to be 1,000 stories high in the middle of the building out on a ledge. And you're going to have to jump to the fan at just the right time from a ledge, but there's not going to be a ledge. It's just going to be glass because I saw Rogue Nation. I saw Mission Impossible. And so we're going to do that, but instead of having a guy actually fucking climb a skyscraper in Dubai, we're just going to digitally render it. And yeah, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And how
why does the supercomputer that runs this building is at an entirely inaccessible point outside the fucking
shit
building?
Goes sideways. You want to make sure that nobody's around to help you.
And that nobody will ever be able to access any of the things they need to turn the fucking sprinklers on in your goddamn smart.
And how big's this building? Is it bigger than the Burj Khalifa? Oh yeah, it's like 3 times the Burj Khalifa. You know that's physically impossible. The wind velocity would knock it over. Bigger.
Remember that movie where Tom Cruise actually went outside the building like a maniac and was climbing up the building?
It's bigger than that
one. And The Rock's going to do it. And he's going to do it with one fucking leg. Well, The Rock has 2 legs. Just get rid of it digitally.
Exactly.
Well, we can't build a structure that big. Just build it digitally. We have computers now. We can do anything. You can do anything except for make a movie worth the time to watch. This is the worst of the week. 3.5 out of 10.
This movie sucks.
Fucking blows.
This movie sucks. Rock's going to do heaps of pull-ups. He can't do a pull-up. He weighs too much. Well, what if he's missing a leg?
What if he uses the leg as the pull-up bar to pull himself up?
This movie blows. This movie sucks. As I mentioned, there's hyperbole sandwiches. This would be a shit hyperbole. I would give this a negative score if we were reviewing it on my podcast. I'll give it like a negative 3,000 and 200. There we go. 3.2 out of 10 is what I had it at. It's like a...
I give it a 3.5 out of 10. Holy moly, the synchronicity has happened.
Legitimately, the 3.2 is... I can't even remember why. I like Neve Campbell. That's it.
Yeah,
I like Neve Campbell.
That's
like,
fine.
She's in it. It's like there's nothing else that's really like Chin Han. He's pretty good. I like him. I'm just having a look at the other Boater or whatever. He sucks. Pablo Schreiber. Oh, Pablo Schreiber. I forgot. Old mate from bloody The Wire, and is in the Halo TV series. I actually really like Pablo Schreiber. He was an amazing piece of shit on Orange Is the New Black, and he's an amazing piece of shit in this for about 10 seconds. And when he's gone, I was like, I'm out. You know? Yeah.
You're not my brother because you lost a leg, but I lost my money. Or whatever the fuck. Yeah. I got more trauma than you.
Oh, shit. Absolutely.
Whatever.
Bullshit.
So I decided to screw you over, but you weren't supposed to be here. So I'm bad, but I'm not really that bad. Fuck. Whatever. All right. It's time for a recap. Well, I think we've both been replaced by AI and we just don't know it. So that seems to be the summary of all of this, is that we thought we were humans who were going to become AI, but we are AI who thought we were humans.
This legitimately feels like one of those situations where it's like, did you do the homework last night? Yeah, you can copy mine, but just like make a couple of changes. Okay, here's Dante's Peak. Here's Volcano. Here's Armageddon. Here's Deep Impact.
Sam, the algorithm that made us is the same algorithm.
We're a knockoff of each other, correct?
Wait, yes. So is Binge Movies a knockoff movie reviews in 20 Qs?
Maybe.
Or is... Yeah. All right. Well, coming in dead last for me is Skyscraper, the most aggressively fake film I've ever seen. I don't even want to call it a film. I don't know what it is. I can't even call it an entertainment. I don't know what the fuck it is. But it's out there. It exists. It was released. And it stinks. 3.5 out of 10. Coming number 4 in any other week would have been the worst of the week. It's 4 out of 10. It is Toy Soldiers. Coming in middle of the pack only because of some budgetary constraints, and it just kind of, I don't know. I don't know why. But Passenger 57, 6.8 out of 10. Number 2, better looking movie, better villains, arguably, because you got better actors. But not as good of a protagonist, not by a long mile, 7.2 out of 10, Under Siege. And coming in at number 1, the best Die Hard knockoff of all time, 7.7 out of 10, is Sudden Death.
Correct. So just following on from that, same order basically. Number 5 with a fake leg, 3.2 out of 10. Skyscraper. Number 4 with a drone, 3.8 out of 10. Toy Soldiers. Number 3 with a
carnival.
With an incredibly embarrassing love romance plot. I don't know what to describe it as. Passenger 57, 6.9 out of 10. Number 2 with a with a protagonist that no one gives a shit about. It's Under Siege, 7.3 out of 10. And then number 1 with a puck.
2 tits and a cake.
Tits and a cake. There we go. Number 2 with tits and a cake. And then number 1 with a puck. Sudden Death, 7.9 out of 10.
If you had to recommend one movie off of this list this week, obviously doesn't have to be your number 1. What would you recommend to the listeners at home?
Probably Die Hard.
All right, on our next episode, we will be ranking the films of Quentin Tarantino, which includes Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You're a clone of me. I'm a clone of you. We're both come out of a computer somewhere deep in the heart of Buena Vista, California. Auckland, Zealand edition of Buena Vista. Is Auckland a sister city of Buena Vista? Do you know that?
I'm not actually in Auckland. I'm in a city called Tauranga, but I was like, I don't know how he's going to pronounce this because Māori names are hard. But we've all got the same time zone, which is why I sent you Auckland as the time zone. But who knows?
You're in fucking Auckland, all right?
I'm in Auckland. In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I'm an American. I don't understand how other places work. Sam, have you ever seen snow in real life?
Yeah. So we're different from Australia. We actually do have ski fields and mountains and all that sort of shit. Like we've got
I know New Zealand does, but have you ever? Do you live in an area that has?
Oh no, we don't get it like naturally. Like we don't get it in the streets, but yeah. The South, we've got two islands. The North Island never gets it. The South Island gets it all the time. So yeah.
Gotcha. I won't retain any of that information.
Why would you?
Thank you for sharing with me about your culture. It seems to be a beautiful place. I hear you guys do amazing things with meats.
Has somebody been telling you about our habit for having sex with sheep or something? Is that what?
No, but you just disclosed more about your culture than I think you were intending.
Well, you've guessed it on the Countdown podcast recently, and Australians do give New Zealanders a lot of shit about having sex with sheep, which is funny because they eat a lot of our sheep exports. So, you know.
When you're not busy doing whatever the fuck it is you do to sheep, where can people find you? It's certainly not on Twitter anymore. You've given up on that. Where can we find you? Where's your podcast? One of the most popular podcasts in the world. Certainly one of the most popular podcasts in your neck of the woods. That's for sure. I look at your charts. You're always up there at the top. Bud.
We are definitely New Zealand's most popular podcast that gets filmed and recorded at my house. We might be number 2.
Every time I listen, okay, I have these guys from your side of the planet on. And I look at your charts, and you're all at the top of the fucking charts over there. And you're all pretty fucking high on the charts worldwide. And you're all pretty fucking high on the charts in the U.S. And as far as independent podcasts go, there's like 3 of you that fucking rule the world. B. Dizzle, Paul, and Sam. You guys fucking rule the world. And every time I'm like, hey, you guys have super popular podcasts that are very clearly in the top 50 of global podcasts produced out of countries people barely heard of other than Paul Hogan, and you're like, nah, this show's not all that popular. Are you telling me the charts are full of shit over here? Are you telling me that Chartable lies? Are you telling me that Apple Podcast lies? Or are you telling me not to believe my eyes and ears?
I'm telling you that, I don't know if this is true or not, you can make up your own mind, but potentially 6 years ago, me, B. Dizzle, and Paul came together and we decided to put together a fund of $1,000, which we sent to a bot army in China, and a bot army in China made this movie, Skyscraper, as well as pumped up our podcast.
I was about to say, did that bot army also make the film Skyscraper?
It did. It accounted for most of its box.
So what you're saying is you are a simulated movie podcast host who is replaced a Flesh and Blood podcast host whose podcast was only popular due to simulation thanks to bots out of China, in the same way that The Rock was only popular because of bots in China.
That's correct. Yeah, I am a simulation, and the original Sam is getting stimulated right now. Yep.
Do New Zealanders dream of electric sheep? The answer is yes. Correct. And they can remember it for you wholesale. Just ask the countdown. Okay, until next time, folks, this is Jason from Binge Movies saying goodbye for himself and for Sam, the man. Go check out his podcast. Leave him a 5-star review if you can. The bots have probably already done it for you, but let's get some real flesh and blood human beings out there cheering for movie reviews in 20 Qs. And until next time.
For now, I must bid you adieu. So, goodbye, and binge on. Your jacket is now dry.